Hello there, it is I, Shepherd Chang, bringing to you another episode of the Avaritia mod tutorial slash guide slash whatever. And in this episode we are talking about extreme crafting, and then I'm talking to you about how to obtain the items called neutronium. They're a little bit complicated to understand, so I'll just get into it. Now, in the first episode, I showed you what the extreme crafting grids look like. And they look like this. So, the extreme crafting grids have a total of 81 slots. And they're a bit complicated, so again, another reminder, you really want the not enough items mod. If you're not using it, I don't know. Now, behind me is the first thing you really want to try to make with the extreme crafting table. I'm sorry, I keep calling it that. The proper term is the dire crafting table. Extreme crafting is what what you're doing, which again is itself a joke, because it's not spelled properly. It's extreme, which of course is not how the way extreme is actually spelled. But regardless, the first item you'll want to make with it, once you have, let's see, what is that? That's 7 more crystal matrix ingots, which will be 14 nether stars and 140 more diamonds, is you'll want to be making that item, the neutronium collector, or neutron collector. It's one of the two. Give me a moment. Okay, it's neutron collector. Neutron collector. So how do you make it? Well, there are 4 materials used. Blocks of redstones, blocks of iron, crystal matrix ingots, and blocks of quartz. Now, as you can see, it uses quite a bit of each. Yeah, that's 7 crystal matrix ingots, 20 blocks of redstone, 10 blocks of quartz, and 21 blocks of iron. Yeah, this, I mentioned in the first episode, this mod is very resource intensive. Yeah, this, just this one item costs quite a bit. So if you're not, if you're maybe just trying to use this mod with just vanilla, as this like as in like this being one of the only mods, which I should note is what this world is. This world is basically just the Avaritia mod, Wyla, and not enough items. I'll explain that at the end of this episode, I think. But yeah, if you're not doing lots of resource collecting, you pretty much can't do anything with this mod. But now, neutron collectors. Gonna cut away here so I can explain them real quick. Okay, so this is what the neutron collector looks like. It's basically got these neat little vaguely circuit-like looking things and this sort of grill with blinking lights on it, I guess. So what does it do? Well, you place it in the world, and it just works automatically. It does not require a power source. Which I should note, the 2 machines in this mod, this item here, and this, the neutronium compressor, do not require any kind of power. They just work when you put them in the world. Now, what does it do? Well, let's click on it, and you'll see this. Neutron collector, there's just one space here, and there's 5 items inside it called pile of neutrons. Try not to think about it. Now, of course, that is itself honestly fairly funny joke. I'm a bit of a science nerd. I understand the joke. It would take a while for me to explain that properly, but basically just look up what a neutron is. It's a real life thing, if you don't already know. And of course, a pile of neutrons is of course something that is, in the real world, physically impossible. Which is, of course, somewhat amusing for those of us who... Anyway, pile of neutrons. Why are there 5 of them in there? Well, I am going to just sort of stop talking for a bit and just sort of speed up this next bit to show you. Okay. So, that was a little bit unexpected. It went from 5 to 7 while I was sitting here looking up things on the internet in the interim. I sped that up by 16 times. Yeah, so these, they take a while, but the neutronium Okay. That was interesting. I haven't had that happen before. It did not actually go up to 7. It did, in fact, just go up by 1, which is what should have normally happened. I'm not sure why it said 7. But yeah, so it actually went from 5 to 6. The neutron collector literally just sits there and it collects neutrons. You don't have to put anything into it. You don't have to sit there waiting. I really, really do not recommend you sit there waiting. I had about 5 minutes go by my clock, but I think that isn't quite the normal amount of time. I believe it's actually a little bit longer than that. I cannot for the life of me remember the exact amount of time it requires, but it isn't exactly a fast process. So, what are piles of neutrons used for? Well, they're used for this here. You combine 9 piles of neutrons to create a neutronium nugget. And then you combine 9 neutronium nuggets to make a neutronium ingot. And from there you can combine 9 neutronium ingots to create a neutronium block. Now, of course, as you might imagine, because these take 5 or 6 minutes, roughly, to just get one of these, getting even one neutronium ingot takes a good bit of time. And again, just like the crystal matrix ingots, the neutronium ingots are one of the big crafting items with this mod. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to cut away back to that other area and show you. Okay, so we're back here, and prepare for a little bit of lag as I turn around. Yep. That's a lot of items. So, what do you use neutronium for? Well, neutronium ingots, I really should be specifying that. You use it for almost every type of extreme crafting recipe. Now, the first thing you're probably going to be using it on is this item here, neutronium compressor, which we saw back at that other area. And it requires these materials. It requires 3 item hoppers, a block of neutronium, 12 neutronium ingots. Let's pull back a little bit more so you can see the whole thing rather than just parts of it. You need 10 crystal matrix ingots. You need 2 blocks of redstone, and I'm pulling forward again, stop doing that, Shang. 17 blocks of iron. Yeah. Now, what are these used for? Well, I'm going to cut away again and show you. This is the neutronium compressor, just like the neutron collector. It's a block that's got these neat little circuit looking things on it. It's got this sort of window looking thing with a moving texture, and when you click on it, you get this GUI. Neutronium compressor. this is an input slot, and this is an output slot. This is, of course, the progress bar, and because I am using NEI, it has the recipes available for you if you click on it. So, the recipes. The items it creates are things like this: iron singularity, golden singularity, lapis singularity, redstone singularity, and nether quartz singularity. Now you notice that there are numbers there. I'll explain that in just a moment. Now, because I've got this page open on NEI, you'll notice that there are more of these items here than there are actually here in the recipes. So what are they? Copper singularity, tin singularity, leaden singularity, silver singularity, and nickel singularity. Those are for use with other mods. Because this is a world with just Avaritia, Wyla, and not enough items, these metals are not in the mod. Or not in the world, I should say. And because they're not in the world, they don't register as being craftable, which is good. Now, to explain the numbers. Notice that the block of iron says 400, the gold says 200, the lapis and the redstone, or the lapis is 400, the redstone is 500, and the quartz is 300. What does that mean? Well, I'll show you. Right over there. Well, at this point you might be wondering why there are so many of them here. Well, that's about to get explained. I've also got these up just to show you what they look like as items. It's a little bit larger than NEI. Excuse me, my voice is going out. I need a drink of water. Yeah. So, why would you want more than one of these when they're so resource intensive? Well, let's open one up. Now, I have, of course, pulled out a whole bunch of these blocks. So, what happens if I put one in? 1 of 500 blocks of redstone. How about the entire stack? 64 out of 500 blocks of redstone. I hope it's obvious, but in order to make one redstone singularity, you need 500 blocks of redstone. Resource intensive is another good way to describe this mod. Now, let's put it in perspective. Blocks of iron. 64 of 400. Yep. Lapis is the same. Gold, 64 of 200. And, of course, blocks of quartz. Yep. The reason you, of course, would want a whole bunch of these is because if you're using this mod, you will need quite a few of these items. And let's just do this real quick. Let's show you. This is the redstone. This is iron. Let's see what happens if I put 64 blocks of redstone in the one where the iron already is. Absolutely nothing. And as far as I know, there is no way to take out those 64 blocks of iron. So once you put these blocks into the neutronium compressors, that neutronium compressor is permanently in use until you fill it. And of course, now just to show you, I am in survival mode. I have taken out the Avaritia pickaxe. And let's see, this is the one full of gold. Let's see what happens if you break it. You get the neutronium compressor back, and if I put it on the ground, it's empty. So of course, if one of these breaks with a whole bunch of items in it, those items are gone forever. So yeah, put these in a safe place. Now, at this point, you might be wondering why this is here right next to it. Now, of course, I put these all here in creative mode, but getting this many of neutron collectors would be extremely resource intensive. However, there is a very good reason you'd want to spend those resources on these. Because, well, for one thing, these fill up until they make a stack of 64. So you can basically just leave them running for a couple of hours and they will eventually fill up on their own. You don't have to be like constantly taking them out or something for them to continue working. But consider this when you're considering why you would make more than one of these. Getting one pile of neutrons requires 5 or 6 minutes. You need 9 piles of neutrons to make 1 neutronium nugget. And you need 9 neutronium nuggets to make 1 neutronium ingot. So you need a total of 81 piles of neutrons to make a neutronium ingot. Now, if you'll excuse me while I do that math, that is somewhere between 410 minutes and 491? Yeah, 491 minutes. Yeah, that's a long time just to make one item. So, yeah, again, if you're doing this mod, you really, really want to be taking care of your resources. You really want to be getting them. So, of course, having more than one of these will, that was 410 minutes just with one of the neutron collectors. If you have 2 neutron collectors, that time is cut down in half. If you have 3, it's cut down by 1/3. The more you have of these, the faster you get the neutronium ingots. And again, you're going to need a lot of them. And now we're back here to the extreme crafting area to talk about some other stuff you need to really actually get stuff with, to really start crafting with this mod. One of the items you have is very important is this, the infinity catalyst, which you'll notice is something on the right. But how do you make it? Well, it's why you need the singularities. You make one infinity catalyst with a block of emerald, an iron singularity, a golden singularity, a lapis singularity, a redstone singularity, a nether quartz singularity, an ultimate stew, which I'll be showing you how to make in just a minute, a cosmic meatballs, again, just a minute, an endist pearl, which I will also be showing you in a moment, and a record fragment, which hold on, I think I actually forgot to show you how to make those. Whoops. Okay, so you make record fragments by putting a music disc in a crafting table. It can be any type of music disc, but again, you have to have found a music disc first, of course, and it makes 8 of them. So yeah, you don't need well, I say you don't need them. You're gonna need a lot of them. But yeah, that's how you make the record fragments. And those are the items you need to make the infinity catalysts. Now let's talk about these 3 here. Let's start with the ultimate stew. Now, as you can probably guess, the ultimate stew is a food item. You make it using a pile of neutrons. Again, you need them for a bunch of stuff. 2 pieces of wheat, 2 carrots, 2 potatoes. These are just normal potatoes, not baked potatoes. 2 cactus, 2 of the red mushrooms, and 2 of the brown mushrooms. Again, the most complicated part about this is the pile of neutrons. But yeah, these are, if you really want to spend the resources, you could eat one. And you also need it for crafting. Now, the other item. Cosmic meatballs. This is, again, a type of food. Again, you need a pile of neutrons, 2 raw beef, 2 raw chicken, 2 raw pork chops, and 2 raw fish. And that's cosmic meatballs. Again, they are a food item you can use if you really feel like it. But I personally would save them for crafting. Now, that third item, endist pearl. This one is a bit harder to make. Yeah, it needs end stone, ender pearls, 4 neutronium ingots, and a nether star. Yeah, that's a little bit more resource intensive. Because, of course, you'll have to have gotten to the end to get this. And that's all the stuff you need to make the infinity catalysts. Now, what is the infinity catalyst used for? Well, its primary use is this crafting recipe over here, which is for the infinity ingots, which I showed you earlier. Now, as you can see, it uses quite a few of all of these. Now, it uses 24 neutronium ingots, 10 crystal matrix ingots, and 11 infinity catalysts to make one of these. Yeah. And to give you an idea of what those are used for, you see those bright spots in the extreme crafting grids? Those are infinity ingots. Yeah. You need a lot of them. Okay, so before I end this episode, I will say one thing that I don't think I actually mentioned in that first part. That some of these recipes will actually change depending on what mods you have installed. Yeah, there is actually going to be a special episode about that. May or may not be the last episode in this guide, but the next episode in this guide is going to be about the tools, the armor, and how to make them. Because they are pretty cool and very resource intensive. See you there.
Bloopers.
Hello there, it is I, Shepherd Chong, bringing to you another episode for this, the Avaritia mod tutorial. And into this episode, we are talking about extreme crafting and neutronium. Now, how do you start with extreme crafting? I mentioned it in the first episode, but it requires a dire crafting table. And I'm going to show you... Damn it. Gotta start over. 3, 2, 1.